Right now on the National Weather Desk, tropics on alert. We'll show you the storms we're monitoring that could see development as we near peak hurricane season. And Labor Day's over, but for some, the heat is still on. We'll find out what areas of the country could see temperatures climb to 118 degrees this week.
Take the drone and drive to locations where you wouldn't normally have information.
Several wildfires continue to burn in California. We'll show you how drones could help predict and prevent wildfires in the future.
To restore it to a healthy state for both salmon and for people.
And the largest dam removal project in the country is finished. We'll find out what this means for local salmon populations.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Well, good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Emma Withrow. We're inching closer to peak hurricane season, and we begin this morning in the tropics where there are two waves that we're keeping our eye on for possible development. Meteorologist Brian Van de Graaff is with us tracking those two systems. Brian, how are they looking over there?
Well, believe it or not, we actually have a third that just popped up just moments ago before we came on the air here. So let me point them out to you. First off, two of them are way out in the Atlantic. We got this little wave off the coast of Africa, about a 40% chance of development over the next 7 days. A new little wave that popped up, 10% chance, so pretty limited. Still, thousands of miles away from impacting even the Lesser Antilles. So we'll be watching this carefully. But this other wave here down in the Caribbean, this could have a bigger impact, just kind of brushing to the south of some of the islands and also making impact potentially on the Yucatan Peninsula as we head through the middle portion of the week. Yeah, as we talk about the tropical activity, our peak is September 10th. Today is September 2nd. So we're right on target there, getting close to peak for hurricane season. We'll keep you posted.
All right, thanks, Brian. And Labor Day is over, but many parts of the country will still be feeling the heat. Parts of Southern California could see temperatures up to 115 degrees this week, and Coachella Valley and the San Diego County deserts could see high temperatures climb to nearly 118 degrees. That's about 10 to 15 degrees above average for this time of year. Over 30 million people around the country are under heat alerts beginning this Wednesday. And last week's Midwest saw unusually warm temperatures as well. Part of that had to do with something called corn sweat. Several people posted about it on social media. Here's a Facebook post from meteorologist Eric Astrava explaining corn sweat and how it can contribute to these high temperatures we're seeing.
Hey there, everyone. I'm Chief Meteorologist Eric Astrava. We had an interesting phenomena happening in the Midwest and the Great Lakes that we have termed corn sweat. Now, this is not a new thing. We've actually talked about it in years past, but it did get some recognition as we did see some very high heat index numbers because of it, as that ridge of high pressure, that heat dome, was centered over the Midwest and the Great Lakes. So what happens here is the corn is actually pulling in more moisture from the ground as the temperatures get hotter. And as that does so, of course, you get that extra moisture that is courtesy of the corn evaporating and making it into the air, which in turn raises the dew points. And with those hot temperatures gives us a hot heat index number. What is going to happen, though, we will get some drier and cooler air to return to the Midwest and the Great Lakes. It will feel more fall-like, more pumpkin spice-like as you get more mid-fall sort of temperatures. And that's going to lead to no more of that corn sweat for now.
A Pennsylvania man is doing okay after a shocking experience early Friday morning. His pickup truck fell into a sinkhole during bad weather. Maxine Rose has a story.
I was just in shock. I look up and it's like freaking 25 feet. I'm like, holy smokes.
A sinkhole around Paradise Timbers Lane and Tuscarora Road, trapping 26-year-old Chris Fisher inside.
I had to jump through the door, go on top of the cab, and then go up through the bed, and then go onto my bumper, and then reach for the top of the pavement, and then climb up on top.
Despite the airbag never going off, Fisher says it was his truck that got hit the hardest.
If you could see, my face is a little brushed up, so I'm thinking I whacked my head off the steering wheel.
Instead of calling 911, he says his first call was to his wife, Abby, who came running to his side. At the time, she says she thought that was the last time she'd ever hear from her husband and father of two.
All I heard from him was, the road is gone, I can't get out, and then silence, and then I could hear the water rushing. I instantly got sick because I was just amazed that he got out of it and he's safe, and I couldn't imagine it.
I'm just glad to be all right.
Now to California, where the coffee pot fire has been burning for nearly a month. The fire's burned 10,000 acres and is 13% contained. Most of those flames are in mountainous territory and are difficult to access on foot, so it makes firefighting efforts by air much more crucial. Liz Gonzalez gives us a close-up look at one of the aircraft making a big difference here.
It appears to be just another bright-colored plane landing on a lake. But what you don't see are these probes underneath, channeling the water inside.
And what we do is we pretty much skim a lake or a river. And within about 10 seconds, from probes hitting the water to probes up, we have 1,400 gallons total in the airplane.
And in a matter of seconds, it's back in the air to drop all that water on fires, like a firefighting helicopter, except
within a 4-hour period, we can get anywhere from 10 drops to, if the lake's close enough or river's close enough, we can get about 40 drops in a single 4 hours.
This is a CO-215 Super Scooper aircraft. It's owned by Bozeman, Montana-based Bridger Aerospace. It's been contracted by the U.S. Forest Service, working out of the Fresno Air Attack Base, to help battle the coffee pot fire in Tulare County.
And typically in California, they have a great strategy where when there's an initial start or an initial fire, they send as much assets that are available to that fire.
Bridger Aerospace has a fleet of 6 of these types of planes fighting fires across the United States and Canada. Look closely and you'll spot both flags. The goal is to drop as much water as possible in a short amount of time.
We like to hit the fire right at the head or any support that the ground guys really need.
And it doesn't require a return to base to fill up on retardant. Nearby lakes and rivers will do. Crucial in a situation where every second counts.
And evacuations are currently in place in Northern California because of the Bear Fire. According to officials, it has burned over 1,200 acres since it broke out Monday afternoon. The smoke from the fire has been visible for miles, with at least one report of it being seen from as far as Reno, Nevada. The cause of the fire is still unknown there. When fighting wildfires, though, weather can help or complicate the work of first responders. Now, NOAA is working to use drones to gather crucial weather information during wildfires and get it to firefighters in real time. Ethan Carlson has more.
This new drone, operated by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, is getting a test flight. Next time there's a big wildfire, atmospheric research scientist Janet Intreri and her team may be out there, using this versatile machine suited perfectly for Colorado.
The mountains make airflow very complex, and it creates its own weather. A fire adds another level of complexity because it will also affect the weather. Being able to take the drone and drive to locations where you wouldn't normally have information is really a key part of this.
Getting accurate information near wildfires is perhaps more crucial than ever. Wildfires are here to stay, and NOAA wants to be prepared.
We need to know what is going to happen in this moment, 6 hours from now, a day from now, a week, a month, a year, in order to be able to see what the most likely outcomes are of wildfires.
Especially as the climate continues to warm.
We're projected to have more extreme events, and as a result of that, we need to have better forecasts in order to be able to foresee them.
The data doesn't just help with long-term forecasts, it can help the people who are actively helping to fight the fires.
If you have that kind of information in near real time, you can respond to the people who need it the most, the fire crew teams.
The plan is to keep testing the drone for the remainder of the year, and to work with NOAA meteorologists on what information and techniques will be most beneficial moving forward. And if another wildfire were to pop up,
we're ready to go, and we would hope to learn how to respond as quickly as possible, but I think we have all of our pieces in place.
All right, and now for some space news. A new study says that a NASA test in space may result in the first man-made meteor shower. In 2022, NASA's DART spacecraft intentionally slammed into an asteroid in order to test whether such an impact could change the asteroid's orbit. The research suggests the fragments of that asteroid will arrive in the vicinity of Earth and Mars within 1 to 3 decades. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we're going to take a closer look at solar storms and the impact they can have on industries that operate in space and here on the ground. And we'll learn about one of the largest dam removal projects in the U.S. that aims to improve salmon populations.
I'm meteorologist Emily Stanton. Let's take a look at the highs today for the Northeast. We're looking at temps mostly in the low 70s for New England and portions of New York, down New Jersey too. 68 degrees up in Caribou, Maine. Now we're staying mostly clear, and that'll be the trend the next couple of days as we head towards the 1 o'clock hour. Temps will be in the upper 60s over in western New York. Most of New England in the low 70s, 74 degrees down in New York. That'll be the trend towards the evening.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Jabali. Here's a look at the mid-Atlantic region. High pressure continuing to settle in across the northern region, which means we are going to stay dry. We are going to stay much cooler until it starts to exit off to the east, where our winds will return to the south, bringing in the humidity again. But it is still going to be a gorgeous Tuesday. We're going to be looking at 60s for highs in the mountains, 70s down the lower terrains. But as we move into Wednesday, just a few degrees warmer, still keeping that lower humidity around until we get later into the week.
I'm meteorologist Charlotte Carl. Here's a check of your highs this afternoon. We're mostly going to be in the mid and upper 80s. Areas will be getting into the low and mid 90s, though. It is going to be toasty. We do have some rain to cool a lot of us down. If you're closer to the Atlantic coastline, scattered showers can be expected all day. We'll see normal sea breeze showers along the Gulf coastline. And then in Alabama, Mississippi, and even southern Georgia, we'll see pretty persistent on and off showers throughout the day. Rain chances remain high. Temperatures just a little bit below normal.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
These clouds, storms, and multiple rain shafts were spotted over Birmingham, Alabama during a recent afternoon flight back to the area. And look closely at this sunset time lapse and the halo that seems to follow the light. Halos form in the presence of thin cirrus clouds when sun or moonlight refracts off ice crystals in those clouds.
Want to see your weather photos and videos on TV? Click Chime In on this station's website to share.
Last month, the Northern Lights really put on a show, mostly due to solar storms. While solar storms frequently bring the possibility of seeing the Northern Lights, these storms pose an actual risk to many industries that operate in space and here on the ground. Meteorologist Garen Heed has more.
From outer space to on the ground, solar storms can certainly pose risks from everything to the power grid to agriculture. And earlier this year, we heard from farmers talking about how some of the heavy rains did delay some of their planting efforts, but a few also had equipment issues due to GPS errors and outages. And due to a G5 solar storm in early May, this is the highest category on the solar storm scale. It was one of the strongest ones we've seen actually since about 1989, while the last G5 category storm itself back in 2003. The way that solar storms impact farmers is by disrupting those GPS signals to equipment, since GPS determines where they're at through the use of 4 different satellites, essentially triangulating the time it takes to send and receive that signal, thus determining precise location to within feet and even some down to about an inch for some farm equipment.
These things are timed down to the billionth of a second. These signals going back and forth between the satellites in the network and the user. So what this geomagnetic storm does is it changes the structure of the atmosphere that these signals are going through. And that increases that delay, that timing that needs to be so precise, and that results in accuracy errors. So what happened in May is that storm escalated quickly. It changed that structure of the atmosphere very fast.
And of course, when that happens, these satellites are constantly calibrating to account for those atmospheric changes due to all kinds of factors. But solar storms can create errors rather rapidly, creating some of those GPS errors themselves from a few feet to as much as a few hundred in very severe cases, putting things like seed and fertilizer in wrong locations, which of course could result in thousands of dollars of losses down the road. Sean says the best way for farmers to prepare is to stay up to date on your local forecast and solar storm activity, and make sure to check your GPS equipment for any accuracy errors before heading out into the fields.
A huge dam removal project is finished in Northern California to allow salmon to swim freely on the Klamath River. It's a first in more than 100 years, and Rudy Aguado has a story.
The Iron Gate, the fourth and final dam in the Klamath Dam removal project, was breached. Salmon will now swim freely in the Klamath River for the first time in over a century, as the largest dam removal project in U.S. history nears completion.
This is a huge moment, not just for the environment and for salmon, but for also the tribes. This accomplishment is the result of relentless and dedicated advocacy by the tribes in the Klamath River to restore it to a healthy state for both salmon and for people.
A national movement to let rivers return to their natural flows, restoring ecosystems for fish and other wildlife.
Everybody agrees that having clean, healthy sources of water for the environment and for people is a priority to everyone. And these dams created algal blooms, they depleted oxygen, they raised temperatures, and all of these things came together to create a fairly routine public health crisis year after year.
The removal of the Klamath River Dam is described as a historical moment, a significant achievement for the environment, salmon, and local tribes.
I'm relieved that we're removing a source of risk to this community and at the same time accomplishing something that's really going to restore the health of the watershed.
Officials in Rhode Island are concerned about an elevated risk of diseases that can spread by mosquito bites. So they're encouraging residents to take precautions to stay safe. Temi Tope-Adeleye reports.
Mosquitoes can carry dangerous illnesses like the Eastern equine encephalitis and West Nile virus, which can be very harmful to humans. The most recent mosquito samples collected earlier this month did not find any mosquitoes carrying diseases. But previous testing has shown a significant risk here in Washington County and an elevated risk level throughout Rhode Island. Previously this season, Rhode Island confirmed 17 EEE virus findings and 5 WNV findings. So the state is now recommending what's called smart scheduling to prevent bites. They're asking cities and towns to consider rescheduling games, practices, and other outdoor activities that would happen during early morning or dusk hours to earlier in the afternoon or indoors.
It's a pretty good idea. I mean, it's not always the easiest thing to execute because there's not a ton of fields around, but if you can avoid those peak dusk hours where the mosquitoes are everywhere, then everybody will be a lot safer.
89 years ago, a hurricane made landfall in the Florida Keys that washed away the railroad that used to connect the islands to the mainland. On one of those rail cars were hundreds of World War I veterans that were living and working in the Keys at the time. Emily Gracie spoke to meteorologist and train expert Les Still about the devastating impact of the Labor Day hurricane of 1935.
So they decided with this work progress project that they would send these bonus Army World War I veterans down there. And at one time, there were about 700 vets down there in the Keys working on these work progress camp projects.
So what happened next? Because in 1935, we didn't have radar. We weren't using satellites. This thing is coming.
Yeah, they started getting word like a day or two prior over in the Bahamas that, a storm had come through. And a lot of people in the Keys, they were a lot more weather aware, just observing it than we are nowadays. They would watch the barometer. So when they started seeing the pressure starting to fall, that's when they knew, okay, it's time to, put up the hurricane shelters and, board up the windows. So as you got into September 2nd, that's when the storm was really starting to head towards there. That morning, they had actually sent a cable to Miami to say, hey, look, we need a rescue train to come down here to get these people from these camps. They were in Matacombe Key, which is where one of the bigger camps were. The train did not leave until about 5:30 in the evening to even start its way down into the Keys. And by this point, the storm was making its full assault on the middle of the Keys.
So what happened? Did everyone on the train perish?
From what I understand, the majority of the people that got on the train in the passenger cars, I think it was a 10-car train, anywhere between a 15 to 20-foot wall of water is what the engineer said, came and sideswiped the train. From what I've heard, a lot of people that were in there, because obviously they didn't have seatbelts, were basically swept out the windows and swept out into sea, and majority of them perished.
If you want to hear more about the science of that storm, check out this week's episode of our podcast, Off the Radar. You'll also hear from the novelist who wrote a New York Times bestseller about this hurricane. Find Off the Radar anywhere you listen to your podcasts. And time now for a short break, but first we're going to take a soar over the desert Southwest.
Good Tuesday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. Starting to get some heat to build out to the west here in the Dakotas. The rest of the Midwest staying pretty comfortable for the day today. A lot of 70s closer to the Great Lakes. Tomorrow, though, we're going to start to see a little bit of rain sliding in from the west. A lot of sunshine moving in for a lot of us for the day tomorrow. And that rain continues to slowly work its way towards the Great Lakes heading into the end of the week. It's a cold front, so behind that, temperatures will cool down, but ahead of it, slowly warming up.
Good Tuesday morning. I'm meteorologist Joe DiCarlo. A look at your forecast across the region. Continued unsettled weather across Texas from the Red River all the way into the Rio Grande Valley. It's showers and thunderstorms scattered through the day on your Tuesday. Look at these temperatures, 70s and 80s across the Lone Star State. Upper 70s for Oklahoma, mid 80s from Arkansas into Louisiana. As we head into your Wednesday, we'll continue to see those scattered showers and thunderstorms across a good portion of Texas, and we'll keep temperatures slightly below average.
Good morning. I'm meteorologist Rebecca Stevenson. Here's what's happening across the West. We're headed into another heat wave, starting out in California and also into parts of New Mexico and Arizona. Temperatures getting into triple-digit heat for parts of the Four Corners. But we've got sunshine and settling weather for the west side of our Cascade Mountain Range. However, to the east, the wind is really picking up and bringing in wildfire danger, critical conditions because of the dry conditions and the wind, along with that extreme heat to the south. That's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Hydration is important at all times, as we all know, but even more so when running outside in the heat. Meteorologist Dante Ricky explains how to keep enough water in your system during the day if you're trying to make running part of your regular workout routine.
The hydration process is spread out throughout the day. You have to drink your water in different rounds. For example, drinking a glass of water right when you wake up is a good idea to get started. And in the hours before a high-intensity workout like running, you'll want to drink 2 to 3 glasses of water. And then, especially in peak heat and humidity of the summertime, every 15 to 20 minutes of exercise, take a break and get a few sips in. It's extremely beneficial to your health and safety. And on top of that, within 30 minutes of ending your workout while you're doing your cool down stretches or your walk, another glass of water will help keep you cool. I'm meteorologist Dante Ricky.
If you're looking for some more weather content, you can find us on all your favorite social media platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Just search up the National Weather Desk. We'll be right back. Well, thanks so much for joining us this morning. I'm Emma Withrow. Make it a great Tuesday, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow morning.